Well, hi, everyone. Hello to our viewers. Thanks for being here again today. My name's Deanna with Seni. I'm here with my colleague, Susie. You want to say hi, Susie?
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another fun episode.
Yeah. We've got an awesome guest today. Many of you in the senior living industry will probably be familiar with Erin Thompson. Aspire for More with Erin is her podcast. And as many of you know, she's an educator in the senior living industry. And her vision, I'll let her share it a little bit more, but I really enjoy hanging around with you, Erin, at different events and learning more about your 20-year experience and everything that you do. For our viewers, and thank you for starters for spending your time with us, but for our viewers that may not be familiar with you, do you mind just sharing a little bit about your background and how you got to be doing what you're doing these days?
Sure. Thank you for having me. Who doesn't want to talk about incontinence on Continence Chats, right? This is great.
I love it.
Yes, I'm Erin Thompson. I am a community level leader my entire career. Started out as a volunteer, then a concierge, and then a sales and marketing director, then an executive director inside of communities. I have a history of turning underperforming communities into high-performing, high occupancy communities in 18 months or less. I did that 4 times. I love and very passionate about adding value to people's lives. I believe that sales is service and leadership is sales, and I used that inside my community as an executive director and a sales director. And I became a podcast host because I felt like there was more. There was more for me to do, more for me to say, more impact for me to have than the opportunities that I had while working for different corporations inside the industry. So I became brave and I said, if one person listens, I'll record another one. And then I don't know how many people, a lot of people listen to the trailer, but it's easy to listen to 2 minutes, right? But people started listening and I kept recording, and here I am. And I have taken the show on the road and gone to different conferences, do webinars, creating a coaching program now. My mission today is to help senior living leaders grow through what they go through, to grow your occupancy, to grow your NOI, to provide top level service for the people that we serve with your own professional and personal mindset and importance being right there together, right? I serve strategy and mindset tips throughout. And I impact people with my struggles rather than impress people with my successes, because we learn more from other people's learnings than their wins, right?
I think I can.
Yeah.
I know we feel indirectly when you're podcasting, you know, someone out there, you hope, right, is listening and you've changed. I mean, it just sounds logical. But have you had, in your experience, because you're also doing a lot of the speaking engagements, it must be so rewarding. Like, is there a story of a direct impact that your teachings have made for someone that you come across? I mean, that's got to be rewarding. And I know you talk a lot about, you know, drop the, I'm going to call them KPIs, but outcomes. Yeah. Drop the outcome, right? Everybody will do better. You know, one of the podcasts I listened that you were doing with another person, it was just all about that. I kept thinking, drop the mic or whatever, but drop the outcome. And I believe in that philosophy. So that podcast to me was really good. But you're always smiling, you're always happy. Like, I'm just curious with the impact that you're making.
Yes. So yes, a lot of my webinars, some of the feedback that I get is like, I never thought about it that way. You have made me think about things so differently. Thank you so much. You've added to me. Like, there's a lot of like to me stuff. And it's because I am very, very, very open about what my pitfalls were and how I have overcome them. I did receive, I have received several messages, which in each one just take me like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. You know what I mean? This is great. Like, you know, because I'm just here at home speaking into a microphone to myself, you know? But I did receive a message and it was from someone who, as if you're on LinkedIn or a lurker, you know, no one that interacts with anything, never liked a post, never commented on a post, never sent a message of any kind. And I get this message that says that your perspective and your podcast and your content has kept me inside of the community and actually given me a new perspective to look at things and has made it easier on me. That,
wow,
blew me away. And I was just like, wow, somebody's listening. You know what I mean? Like, I know people are listening. I see the numbers, but it's just like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
you know? And I send out an email every Saturday, and it's nothing but an encouraging email. I'm going through what I believe the 12 steps are for a successful senior living leader. And I look at it from an operations standpoint, from a sales standpoint, and from a customer service standpoint, and then a recap every month. And I get a lot of replies to those newsletters. Like, I needed this today. Thank you so much. Or I've been, excuse me, I've been a leader for a long time. I needed that reminder. So that has been nice too. And each one gives me the courage and the strength, right, to keep going.
I love that story, and I'll tell you why. I'm a big person on ripple effects. I feel like my life is just ripple it out, ripple it out. What does it all mean? But honestly, Erin, you think of that one person that sent you that note, that you kept them in the community, but that one person could have a resident, and the resident's daughter or son could be attached to that employee because there's that trust factor, or that resident themselves is attached. And you think of all that ripple as one arm. If you're keeping them there, the trust factor, God forbid that person leaves, that could all go astray. Then I just think from a coworker perspective, there could be people that are going to work on a Monday because that person is there, or they're a better leader because they're getting tips from you. And then I think from an HR perspective, right, all of the positive things by keeping tenured employees in place. I mean, it just goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Like, I just think that is, like, to me, I'm excited for you. There's just so many pivots, you know, to that. So, yeah.
And Erin, you mentioned earlier that you're helping leaders to grow through what they go through. Mm-hmm. What are some of the mindset tips that you share?
Oh, here we go. Well, I will start this. If you're not familiar with any of my content, I lived in a very negative mindset for a very long time. So, it wasn't until about 2 years ago did I realize, like, I could control these crazy thoughts in my mind. I didn't have to fight against them. I didn't have to use them to fuel me. Like, I kept, like, this negative loop. Like, you got to prove these people wrong. I don't know who these people were, right? Anybody that I just added to the list, right? Because I felt like that's what I needed. That was my fuel and my momentum and my motivation, right? So I was two people. Like, I was really proud and in love with the executive director that I was. Not perfect by any stretch. I'd always go into that, but very committed, very loyal, very service leadership. I loved my people. I loved hard. I overcommitted. I oversacrificed. And so I loved the blazer, long necklace, high heel Erin. Like, she was my hero. And then there was this tennis shoe version of Erin that struggled with lots of things. And I the worth, the confidence, I am my numbers, all those things. My identity was that of 100% executive director all the time. So what I realized when life forced me to fix myself was this sentence, these things, these thoughts do not serve me. They have helped me fuel me to do things, hard things, so I could prove to whoever that I was a success. But it was an indication that whoever was me. I was looking for my own acceptance, my own approval. Like, what is success to me? I don't know. I'm trying to find it, that kind of thing. And so when somebody said to me, do you hear how you talk about yourself? Do you hear what you say? And I'm just like, yeah. So, I mean, that's what I do, And they were like, no, that's not normal. Like, you're really hard on yourself. And I'm like, really? And so I started recognizing that and acknowledging that. And then I started when you start a podcast or when you do something outside of your comfort zone, you realize a lot of things that you do is because you feel shame about it, right? If you don't talk about the hard things, then it's because you wrap identity and worth into what didn't work and what did work. And once I realized that the sentence, I am not enough, is really rooted in shame for whatever reason you assign it to, I was like, huh, okay. So then I just took a deep dive into that. And I just steadily started saying, you're going to do this, even though you're scared, because it's an experiment, or to prove to yourself that you can do hard things, right? Like, if you're going to no longer work in the community anymore, you're going to have to figure out who you are outside of the community. I dive into that deep.
Yeah. Well, I always think, one of my girlfriends told me a long time ago, and I was like, oh, you're right. I love that. We were talking about what success looks like and failure and fear of failure and all that everybody's vulnerable to some degree. But she said to me quite simply, she said, the reality is if you never give up, you don't fail. And I've hung on to that forever now. Like, I love that because it's so true. And so it could be you pick it up again in the future, whatever it is in the future. But if you just say it's I'm pivoting, it's a sidebar, it's whatever, but not failure can only be when you give up. So if you never give up, it's still hanging, looming to go back and get it. And that varies for different, different people. So
yeah, it's an experiment. I tell myself all the time, it's an experiment. That's what this is. It's an experiment. You have to learn what works and what doesn't, where you fit in, where you don't. And by whose measure of success is success.
Yeah, true. And your best serve starting with your own.
Right.
How you feel. And then it portrays. Yeah. Do you think now that you've been outside of a community for a little while now, do you think senior living, do you look as an outsider looking in now through a different lens? Do you think, or do you think in that, like, you've almost stepped out here, but you're still all swirling within it to help leaders and so forth? Is it a different industry than when you were in it and since COVID, or do you think it's the same industry and you're just in a different role to help improve it?
I think fundamentally it's the same industry. I think that there's certainly a technology gain that I don't recognize, so to speak. I think that there have been advancements of certain things, whether it's a CRM or an EMR system, those details that I might not know, but fundamentally it's the same. And so where I come into play, and that it is a different perspective for me, is I understand business more than I ever have, because I only know one thing, which is senior living, right? Inside a community, regulatory compliance, sales and selling people, like very niche down, very specific success path and trajectory. And so I didn't understand business. And now I understand business a little bit more, and the education part of business, because I've really spent 2 years on that piece. And so it is a much different perspective, because I'm like, I know how we can do better. I know how we can lower some of this retention percentage, because we're not paying attention to the leaders. We're only paying attention to the tasks that they have to do. And we're telling them that they have to do this and not listening. My husband has this saying, nobody wants to hear about the labor pains. They just want to see the baby, right? That's corporate wants to see the baby. And the leaders are like, you need to know about the labor pain,
Yeah.
And there's the disconnect, because as women, if you've had children, our labor, our birthing stories are our war stories. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And who doesn't want to talk about it? So that is where I see a bit of difference, and I see opportunities that maybe other people don't see, because corporations, everybody's on every level is too busy to pay attention to the details. But what sets apart a good community, a good business, are the details. And if you skip over too many details, you really miss what sets you apart,
Yeah.
And that training piece is not there inside senior living.
It sounds like you had to go through your own birthing process in this realm by taking that hard look at yourself and realizing the negative self-talk and the patterns maybe that had been developed or instilled in you forever, how many years it could have been. But I wonder how many people don't ever want to take that hard look at themselves and say, this is painful, this doesn't look pretty, and yet it's something to go through to get out on the other side. And I just want to applaud you, Erin, because you took the time and you did the personal work. And now you're not only equipped, but you're thriving and in a place where you can help other people, avoid the pitfalls and look at the things that aren't working from a healthy perspective. It's not a pointing the finger. It's not a shame type of thing, but it's, let's look at this so we can fix it and make it be more healthy. So I applaud you. I mean, that's awesome. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you. It is a lot of work. And it is uncomfortable, but just like somebody who loses 100 pounds or even 20 pounds or whatever, it's like, it's worth it, because the way that you feel, like it feels so much better to live life without that heavy shield of always trying to protect yourself from the next shoe to drop. Like, let me tell you, it is. Foreboding joy is something that is hard to walk through, like you can be happy, but something else is fixing to happen because you can't be happy for too long. You know what I mean? Like that was my life, Yeah. Oh, we just hit 100%. We're going to celebrate today. And then tomorrow we're going to have to fill the move outs that are coming, the next day. Like it was just that way all the time. And I hit it very well, which was exhausting too, right? Like, because not many people understood that, that I was always preparing for the next worst case scenario. And I think that now it's just, it's because I'm worthy no matter what happens, the foundation is there.
Yeah.
And I will adapt and pivot and accept my role. Nobody wants to accept their role. And I was that person. But that's like, if I want peace in my life, I realized I have to accept my role and acknowledge it and address it, like that level of accountability changes your life. It really does.
Can you expound on that? Accept your role. What does that mean?
So in every win and every learning, every failure, every learning that we have, we play a role in that. I played a role in turning these communities around, just like I played a role in a bad situation, you know, where maybe the relationship with the corporate office didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to be. I mean, I resented the fact that I was so successful and never given an opportunity to be promoted. And there are reasons why I could not have been promoted, and they're valid. They're valid reasons. I can't be on a plane every Tuesday, right? But I resented the fact that I wasn't even asked. Nobody had the conversation with me. I gave people, you know, companies the numbers that they wanted. And therefore, over time, when you resent something so much, there is no relationship anymore, right? I contributed. My role was I never communicated what I wanted. I wanted somebody to see my greatness and talk, you know, and tell me how great I was, talk about a position that I wanted, and then for me to turn it down. You know what I mean? That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Anyways, and I just resented it. Like you know, you strive for something, and then all that negative energy just sits inside of you because you can't get it out, because you want to be a positive leader for your team. You don't want anybody to feel like they're not enough for you, you know, all these things. And then the only place to get it out is directed at that one place that you feel resentment for, you know? And so when a relationship breaks apart, in whatever way, there are people that play a role in that. And you can sit here and blame the other person all you want, but blaming makes you a victim. I am not a victim. And if I don't want to be a victim in my life, and I want to be a victor, and I want to keep pressing forward, then I have to acknowledge my role in every win and every loss and say, I could have done better there. I could have asked. You know, I could have asked when I was less angry instead of when I was angry, because that never goes well. I could have been honest with myself and accepted the fact that it was never going to happen and this is the role that I was in, or maybe ask if there were other special projects that I could do. But I didn't, because I was scared of rejection. It's not their fault.
Love your candidness. For sure. For sure. You know, we were talking a little bit offline before we started recording this, because with what Susie and I do, and it's not just the incontinence industry or products, it's other products that we see too, and services. Do you feel, if, you know, we are challenged a little bit sometimes when we go into communities, and we may have leadership within the community share with us that they may be having some challenges with residents with, it could be UTIs, it could be pressure sores, wet sheets, it could be things related to that. And so we will present to them, oh, you know, Seni products, and we can help reduce those things and so forth. And while they will say it all makes sense logically, sometimes, and not all communities, but certainly a number of communities will say, hey, we can't change it, right? That's a corporate decision. And understanding both sides of that balance, the bigger the community, the more communities that you have, and you can't have Johnny saying one thing, Sally saying another, Denny selling another, and so forth and so on. Systems in place, but at the same time, it's challenging, and not just for incontinence products. It could be linens, it could be hospital beds, it could be, so systems in place. Was that always a struggle that you were up against? And do you think that will always be a struggle just by virtue of scaling?
I think the answer to that is yes. And I think what I understand now about automation and scaling, which is certainly where everybody is going to these days. Obviously, AI gives us the opportunity to automate lots of different things. And scaling is all about keeping things uniformed and systematic. So the same thing can be done at every community, right? Which allows for tracking and inventory and I say management or control, right? No surprises, right? Because this is the processes. So in some ways it works, especially if you think about the legal aspect of things, like everybody should be doing it this way. This protects, we learn from all the mistakes of the communities that weren't doing it right. So there are certainly positive sides to that, especially if you choose a community because of a brand name. Like if you go to McDonald's and you want a Quarter Pounder, you're really not going to expect a Whopper in Mobile and a Quarter Pounder in Florida, right? In Destin, Florida. So scaling automation and consistency, that comes with everything being the same, very uniformed. Who suffers from that are our customers, right? Because we're not a McDonald's and we're not a Quarter Pounder with cheese. We are humans who have different needs at different times of our life. And the cookie cutter incontinent brief doesn't always work for everybody. I can't necessarily have, Tide Pods garden scent because I have allergy issues and that thing makes me sneeze for a week. So I can't do that, right? So I'm not going to fit the pattern of a large corporation who is going to put scented dishwasher or washing machine detergent, right? Yeah. So it helps the corporation in mighty ways, and it can hurt the resident. And is there a middle line that we can cross? And I think what happens is these smaller to mid-market companies allow the boutique products to allow the boutique experience that these bigger corporations don't because of the numbers, right?
Yeah.
And I hope we see that that's what the customers want. They want the ability to create an experience that is best for them. And I think that the baby boomer generation is going to give us a run for our money because just as much, social media gives us the opportunity to see what's out there, be influenced by it, and then come back and demand it from the person that they're doing business with.
Yeah. And it's so hard because we're talking, I just think the industry, I think most people that go into this industry start off with smart people and big hearts, more than anything, big hearts, right? They go into it with big, how can you not? It's just logic, right? How can you not? You go into it with such big hearts, but the challenges are so many tentacles to the challenges because you're in a sense paying for care, but care is human from the minute you talk about giving birth, right? That's we're humans, we're care, we're nurture. That's our whole makeup is to care. And it'd be like someone in our family coming and saying, son or daughter, hey, I'm sick today, right? Can you give me the cold medicine and this and that? And say, well, open up your wallet, son or daughter, right? It's such a hard industry because it's human and yet it's half human, half transact. It's very difficult for everybody at every level, I think. So you got to look within, to your point, and say, can I make that difference?
It's even in talking about levels of care, and this fits into the conversation, and especially with incontinence. It's like, you're a resident and you move in and you need more help, but needing more help means more money. Right? If there are levels of care involved. And then it feels like my pride is hurt because I need more help. And now my wallet is hurt because I need more help. And it's a double whammy. And therefore I'm not going to need the help. And then I'm going to hurt myself accidentally because I'm too proud to say I need the help. And it's the same way. It's the same thing. It's like, I moved here because you have the opportunity, and I moved into that community because you have the opportunity to offer me all the things that I want. But I don't want all the things that you offer because I want this better product over here. And so how can I get the better product? And I think when customers start saying that, then the companies are going to have to start answering that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to ask this, but I have a feeling this could be a 5-page answer. It's how did you turn the underperforming communities to high performing in 18 months or less? Maybe just share one nugget from that. I'm sure that's a very big answer, but I know our time is running out.
Yeah, I will, because I've been thinking about that a lot. And I will say it starts with creating trust instantly inside of a community. When I walk into a community and it is underperforming, there are several different factors. The leaders before lied, did not follow up, did not follow through, I like to say, a bobblehead, and just said yes to a lot of things and had no intention of fixing it. And that means that the entire community was run that way. And so a leader comes in and they have to acknowledge that. And they have to acknowledge the problem. You have to find out what the problem was, acknowledge it. And it starts with a lack of trust. And so everybody's angry. If you've ever been in a relationship where there's no trust, there is no margin for error, right? So you come in and you identify what you can be consistent with to build the trust. Where is the bleeding? Stop that, build the trust. And follow up and follow through are very, very important. And being present, like those are the things that would be the main. And it's not about getting move-ins. That's important. We're not stopping move-ins, but that's not our focus. You have to take care of what you have first. Then you start building upon that, because all those people who are angry, they don't trust you, they don't trust the company, whatever's going on, they will move out, or they will tell other people not to move in. Then they will start telling people, oh no, there's a new leader and you know, something's going on, it's positive, go ahead and come in. So a lot of people will come in and just say, you've got to get occupancy up, got to get occupancy up. Well, no, you got to fix what's broken. So then when people come in, they don't automatically turn around and move out. So it's fix what's broken. And a secret that people don't understand is the way that people feel the last time they walk out of your community is, if not the second most important, the first most important feeling versus just walking in. Because the constant referral will come from somebody who felt valued and loved and well cared for at the end. So it doesn't matter what happened at the beginning. It really matters on what happens at the end. Because if they passed away or if they needed a higher level of care, they need more from you. And if they didn't get it, now they're sad and they're angry. So
fantastic.
I'll just add a point on that. I think that's true too for the employees. When they leave, when the staff leaves every day, if they leave on a good note, they're coming back in on a good note. And that ripples out to the residents or potential residents. It all, again, back to the dynamics, right, of everybody involved. So, yeah. Well, thank you very much. We really do appreciate your time, your insight, your transparency. And I love everything that you're doing out there. I really do. Kudos to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be here. You know, I'm glad to see you in October and continue the party, man.
I love it. Thanks, Erin.
You're welcome.